Hey friends, today I'm doing a no spend video. I'm trying to spend as little money as possible this month just because I really need to. I spent too much money last month, and so this month I'm just gonna see what I can make with what's already in my kitchen. I picked up this ham steak a few weeks ago because I thought it would be a great start to some inexpensive meals. I think this was about $2.99, but you can get a 2-pack of these at Walmart for $3.48. And there are also some substitutions that you can make for the ham. I'll discuss that later in the video. But I also have this bag of potatoes that I thought I would use. And I've got an onion, which is going to go nicely with the potatoes. And then I also found some frozen corn in the freezer. So I thought I would throw these together and just make some kind of stir fry. Fried ham is delicious. So this is the first thing that I thought I would want to make with this. I'm only going to be making one serving of this dish, so I'm just going to use one potato. And I think in order to speed up the cooking process a bit, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the microwave for 3 minutes, and then I'll finish cooking it in the pan. And this is actually a little bit softer than I wanted, so maybe I should have just cooked it for 2 minutes. I like it to be slightly firm. I'm just going to be cooking it to get it a little bit crispy. And I did cut up a small amount of that onion to go with these potatoes. I'm cubing this ham myself, but you're going to like this recipe so much that you might find that you want to buy the cubed ham. Of course, you're going to spend a little bit more every time something is just even one step more processed. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. I think if it were me, I would buy the ham and then cube it and then put the cubes into the freezer. And then you can always use the cubes for soups or to throw into omelets. And I had to search for my handy tool. This is my favorite tool for stir fries. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of oil. And I don't think I used quite enough, but that's okay. I can add a little bit more later on. There are certain recipes that you can bake instead of fry to cut out the oil, but I do like the oil in this recipe. It just makes everything turn out so much better. And frying ham in particular gives it such a different flavor. It really intensifies it and gives it a nice caramelization. Now that the ham is cooked, I'm pulling it out and I'm going to cook my potatoes and onions, and then I'll throw the ham back in at the very end. But there are many different kinds of meats that you could use here. Any of the canned meats that you have in your pantry would probably work here. You could use Spam. You could use the Walmart luncheon meat. You could use a roast beef. There are so many options for what to add into this dish, and some are less expensive than others. I would even stop by the meat section and just ask for 1 piece of thick bacon, and then you could chop that up and add this in. I think my top 3 recommendations would be either bacon, ham, or Spam in this dish. I like to eat this with just vegetables, and sometimes I'll throw in some broccoli. I've even thrown in different kinds of vegetables into this mix, but I like to use the frozen corn because it candies up in the pan and it becomes super chewy, and it's just so delicious. It's just like the way the ham kind of caramelizes. Well, the corn does also. And so I'm checking this to make sure that it's candied because it's kind of hard to tell because of the corn that I used. I think that was the Trader Joe's brand, and it already has some char marks on it. Normally you can see when it starts to caramelize because it kind of changes color, but it was harder to tell with that brand. Anyway, then I tasted it for saltiness and I needed some more salt. So I added some garlic salt into the mix. And that was my intention all along, is to use garlic salt in this because I do love that flavor so much. Sometimes if you add the garlic salt early on, or garlic powder for that matter, it does kind of cake up in the pan a bit. So I wanted to save it towards the end. Okay, my son has already been nibbling on this ham, so there's a couple pieces less than there was before. I filmed this on New Year's Day, so we're all home today, and I plan to give this to my son. This is so delicious. It's not an especially vibrant looking dish, but it is really delicious. If you've never tried this combination before, I do recommend it. All of the ingredients in this dish are ingredients that really shine when they are fried. First of all, the onions. Those develop a nice caramelized, rich, deep, sweet flavor. You've got the chewiness of that corn with the saltiness and the deliciousness of that ham. So if you haven't tried this before, I definitely recommend it. It's super inexpensive and it's something you're going to want to eat again. And it's a meal that you're going to want to have in your toolbox when you're not quite sure what you want to have for dinner. I used to buy this garlic Alfredo sauce. I would just throw it together with some spaghetti and it made some super easy and quick weeknight meals. In my last video, I made a pasta sauce inspired by a Jimmy Kimmel recipe. And this week I was wondering if I could make an Alfredo sauce that's similar to the one I used to buy. If so, it would be a much healthier version, and I could possibly can the sauce in jars and then just use it for easy weeknight meals. I have some garlic bread left that I picked up last week, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few pieces of garlic toast to go along with this. So I'll start with getting that prepared, and it's already prepared pre-packaged, but I'm just going to add some Parmesan and then just a little bit of extra garlic over the top. And for this, I'm just using powder. I had mentioned a delicious garlic bread that I had on my trip a few videos back, and some of you had asked where it was that was purchased. I found out it was actually Stater Brothers that was purchased, but you can always make any garlic toast better by just adding the Parmesan cheese and the garlic. Sometimes you guys watch videos where I'm doing like an extreme budget challenge, and those are super fun. I think they're probably my favorite videos, but for this video you're just watching me cook what I actually wanted to eat this week. My thoughts are on the bean sauce and how healthy it is for you and how I can kind of incorporate that more into different meals. And I think that's naturally what you do when you're cooking, is you're experimenting with new discoveries. And that's what I'm doing this week. So it's a little bit more of the same of what you saw last week. So I do apologize for that. I'm trying to edit this to where it's quickly getting through it. But I did want to see if Alfredo that's made this way is something that I will enjoy. And if so, you might also want to try this. And I'm going heavy on the garlic because I do love garlic. But obviously, if you wanted to make your Alfredo with just the Parmesan, then you can do that. And also, alternatively, you could add in some garlic powder instead of the fresh garlic. I've actually been thinking of all kinds of ways that I could use the blended cannellini beans. They're just so tasty and so very smooth, just a very nice mellow flavor. And I was thinking about the ingredients in the first dish that I made with ham and potatoes and onions. And I was thinking you could easily make a soup with that and make a very, very thick base with this blended beans. It would improve the nutritional content of the soup, and I just think it would make a really nice soup. I wish I would have had time this week to make that for you, but I didn't. It's been a little bit weird for me because I've had some days off, but then it's been the holidays, and I don't know, my schedule just feels just very off. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to get back to my normal schedule. I think I'm more productive on my normal schedule. I let this cook for a good long while just to absorb all of that delicious garlic flavor. Then I added in the Parmesan cheese. In order to keep your Parmesan cheese from clumping, you want to make sure that the sauce is not too hot. So normally I just turn off the heat and then I add it in at the very end. So in other words, I don't add it in when it's in a rolling boil. I just add it in at the very end and then I whisk it together. And that prevents it from clumping. It just makes a really nice sauce. And I'm going to go ahead and get my garlic toast ready to go with this meal. And that's about perfect for how I like my toast. And guys, this tastes just like Alfredo. It has a strong Parmesan flavor, even though I didn't use that much Parmesan. I guess it makes sense that it would taste just like Alfredo because when you think about it, cream or milk doesn't really have a lot of flavor. So it's really just the Parmesan flavor that you're getting. And my sauce is very thick. You could use pasta water to thin it out if you want to, but I wanted to make it like this the first time I made this and see how I like it. I think the majority of people like a thick coating on their noodles. I don't know, you tell me, do you like your noodles thick or do you like a thinner sauce? I typically like a thinner sauce, but this is delicious like this. It does taste heavy, just like Alfredo does, but I was thinking that the next time I made this, I would like to thin it out, which is exactly what I did later in the week. But before I show you that, can we just talk about this garlic bread? This was so delicious and chewy, and it just hit all the right notes. Anyway, here was my pasta with white sauce later in the week. And here I used a little bit thinner of a sauce. I just thinned it out with some more pasta water. And I also cooked my noodles slightly less than I did before. And I just all around like this much better. It was a little bit lighter tasting, not as heavy, and just more to my liking. I used the cannellini beans again later in the week for a soup I made for my lunch. And this is a familiar soup that you've probably seen on my channel, but I'm going to show you this while I'm telling you about some freebies that I discovered this weekend. So I love the library. Well, I love books in general. I just love reading, and going to the library is so much fun for me, but I'm so limited on time. It just seems too much to get to the library for me. But anyway, I was looking online at some books that I want to read, and I realized that I could just check them out with ebooks. Which I guess probably many of you already know this, but I didn't, so I thought I would share it with you in case any of you want to do some free reading. They have lots of different kinds of books, and they have magazines, and they also have audiobooks. My library even had this program called Zip Books, whereas if the library doesn't have a book that you want, it gets shipped directly to you from Amazon, and then when you're finished with the book, you just return it to the library. So there are so many programs, and this California State Park Passes program, some of my viewers are the ones that told me about that, where you can check out free passes to national parks and local parks from the library. So I thought that was cool to just be able to check out books on my computer, and that just saves me all that time of driving down to the library. I have an Apple MacBook Pro that I use for all of my editing, and basically I watch TV on there, I watch YouTube, I do pretty much everything on that MacBook, but it also has a reader on it, but I didn't use that reader. I used Libby.com, and I think it was suggested by my library, which is an online reader that you can use to download the books and then read them on there. But obviously, if you're a reader, you're probably already knowledgeable about the Kindle app and all of that, and you know how to use that. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to share any knowledge that I have on that. I'm still kind of exploring it myself, but I think that there's a lot of resources I still have yet to discover. Anyway, if you notice, I added in the beans to thicken up the soup. I didn't want it too thick. I still wanted it fairly thin, but I just added those in because I was actually out of lentils this week. And so I thought it was perfect time to try adding those in. But like I was saying earlier in the video, if you wanted to make like a thick ham and potato soup with some of the ham that was left in that ham steak, then you could certainly add more and then make it very thick. And then I just packed this in my lunch. Okay, so I wanted to let you guys know I did pick out 2 books, one that I asked for Christmas and another book that I read online from the library that would get me set for the new year. And I am so out of time this morning. It's already 6:52 a.m. and I have to drop my video in an hour. So you're going to have to tune in next week. We'll be cooking some more, and I'll also share with you the 2 books that I had that set me up for a prosperous new year. Thanks so much for watching, friends. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you next Sunday.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way.